Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, JTV Hot Trends. Now, this is a special edition of JTV Hot Trends, a Mother's Day edition. And, I don't think I've ever been too nervous, but I'm a little nervous with this next guest that we have in the studios. With me right now, I have none other than Miss Gwendolyn Blyden Rubain, my mommy. Mother, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Well, first of all, it's definitely a treat to have you on JTV Hot Trends for this Mother's Day special. I definitely feel that your life story is a story that should be told. I always say, if we sell it to Lifetime, it would definitely be a hot seller, for sure. So one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you to the show for this Mother's Day special is because I think your story is a unique one. And of course, you're a major inspiration to me. And I'm pretty sure when others hear your story, you will be an inspiration to them. So before we get into the story, just, briefly tell the viewing audience a little bit about yourself.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Sophie has said, I'm her mom. I'm a mother of 4 adult children and 7 grandchildren. This has always been Sophie's passion, so I'm feeling quite proud this evening as I can sit here and be interviewed by her. From the age of 2 or so, as far as I can remember, Sophie has been interviewing persons with a hairbrush.
Oh Lord!
And then later on, I got her a mic. So I'm so happy to see her pursuing her dreams, and she does such a wonderful job.
Thank you, Mom. There'll be no crying on this show. Let me just put that out there.
Crying.
So your story basically would start off as being a young widow. My dad passed when I was about 2 years old. He was in a car accident. And you were a young widow with 3 children at the time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, I like to go back a little further.
Okay, further.
Because seeing that Mother's Day is on its way, I like to acknowledge my late grandmother, Rachel Ann Idalia, who was instrumental in raising me from 1 day old to age 20. And the old saying goes that the village raises a child, and that is true in my case, because in my household was my older cousin or brother, Elmo Stout, and then my older cousin, Shirley George, who is now married and gone off on her own. And she was like my big sister who we could talk the girly things with, and my brother Elmo was more for the educational aspect of my life. And yes, I got married at a very young age 18, and I also became a mother at the age of 18. Of course, there are no manuals that come with these little babies, so I had to rise to the occasion.
Right.
It was difficult, but again, I had assistance from my twin sister Carolyn. I like to also acknowledge her, and my aunt Emily. We had an extended family. My husband died, yes. I was 25 years old with 3 children, ages 3 to 7. But I told myself that I don't want to go crazy or have my children see me as weak.
Right.
So I rose to the occasion and I stayed strong. There were evenings when I would cry, but not letting you guys see that I was crying. And at the same time, I was planning my next day to make sure you guys were fed and kept happy.
Right. And you said that, but was it a certain person that gave you that inspiration, or was it just the fact that you had to rise to the occasion for your 3 young children?
Well, I always say that children learn what they see. My grandmother was a young widow, and she had 9 children.
Yes.
And as you know, one of her children was the first Chief Minister of the British Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
And she did this all on her own, and she always said, well, I took night and make day, which means she extended the day later into the evening to make sure that her children were looked at properly.
Right.
And so, yes, that was an inspiration to me. And I just went from there.
And you went from there. And if I can remember correctly, you were always a young professional. When we used to live in St. Thomas, I know you were a teller at one point. Give us a little background of your employment history.
Well, I job trained at the then commercial bank. And while I was there, I got so interested in seeing how a bank operated. So I said, as soon as I graduate, I would make an application to a bank.
Yep.
So I told my grandmother, well, I want to apply to a bank. I want to work there. And she said to me, no, you can't work in a bank. You ain't from Tongue. So I said, what Tongue has to do with it? I know I can do this. So she's saying that I should go to the Langway Hotel and see if I can find a job. Then I said no. So I sat with my little notepad and I made my application. Never made an application before in my life. and I sent it to the bank, and a few weeks later I went to the post office box and I was successful.
Y'all have post office box?
Oh yes, P.O. Box 7 Weston.
Okay, so you were successful, and
I was successful, and that started my career in the financial services, because that's all I've done for the past 41 years. Even though I'm doing it on the trust side now, I've worked in banks for 20 years,
Right.
and now 22 years in the trust sector.
Right. Awesome stuff. Now, what would be your words of encouragement for young single mothers, or just single mothers on a whole?
Well, I would say that the word single should come out of the vocabulary altogether. It has nothing to do with anything. It has to do with your persistence and exactly what you want to achieve, where you want to see your children go in life. So you would make that commitment. Sometimes, yes, it's daunting, but like I say, you have to regroup. Every day brings a new opportunity. Today may be rough, tomorrow may be smooth. You never know. So you can't give up today. You have to persist.
Right. And your persistence, because I know you mentioned to us that you used to attend UVI.
Yes,
In
I
St. Thomas.
attended UVI for a short period in 1985 and 86. But having you guys young again, I had to abort that.
Right.
And then I came over to the Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands, and I enrolled in HLSCC because I was persistent in having a degree or something, because as I said, my cousin Elmo always said, girl, Gwen, you can be anything you want to be as long as you put your head to it. And I always kept that at the back of my mind. Despite the fact that I got married young didn't mean that my life came to an end.
Right.
So again, I enrolled here back in 1995 or something, and it was derailed. But still, stayed in the back of my mind.
Persistent.
Yeah, persistent. And I did several corresponding courses, certificates, and diplomas. And I said, yes, I still have to get this associate's degree. So then when my son, my youngest son, graduated in 2009, I enrolled again. And as you know, I was successful and graduated with my associate's degree.
Yep.
And presently, I'm enrolled at the University of Bradford Business School, working on my MBA. And I'm looking forward to being hooded. I'm just excited.
Hooded. So at any time when attending classes at HLSCC, did you feel out of place? Did you say, oh my gosh, I made a mistake of being amongst the youngsters?
Well, I never really felt that way. I was amongst very young people, and they sort of look up to me. But my youngest son, like I said, who left school, you know, he was like, Mommy, I don't want you going to college with my friends. They're going to think you stay back.
Oh, Lord.
So I said, I'm sorry, Jacoy, but this is something I want to do, and I'm going to do it. I will not be deterred. So I went ahead and I did what I had to do.
So, Mommy, tell us what was the most difficult thing that you experienced in your life?
Well, I can remember it like it was yesterday, your father's death. It was just 2 days before Christmas. We had made many celebratory plans for Christmas. We had the Christmas tree sitting on the floor. He had gone off to return a delivery truck. And I waited all evening, and he didn't come home. But somehow I felt that something was wrong. I waited and waited, and when the authorities showed up, and I didn't wait for them to tell me, well, your husband is dead. And they asked me, well, does Junior live here? And I said, Junior who? He said, Junior Rubain. I said, yes. So I said, don't tell me he's dead, isn't he? And then he said, I'm sorry, Miss Rubain, but there's no easier way to tell you. It was a devastating blow because I had these 3 little children. I had no family there.
We were where at the time?
If you are aware.
We were where at the time?
We were in Miami, Florida. It was December 23rd, 1983. I remember running to the yard and yelling and screaming and just jumping up and down. There was this one neighbor that I said hello to because I knew nobody there. I was only there for 6 months or so. And she asked me what's going on. I told her. And she invited me in and she gave me a drink. And that drink just burned my stomach. It did nothing for me. And I hadn't said anything to you kids yet, but somehow your oldest sister, Kim, overheard. And she ran into the room and she just, sat there. She never cried. And I was saying to myself, how do I tell his mother?
Right.
It was really, really sad. I also remember a group of persons that came by to study with me on a Thursday from the Jehovah's Witness.
Yes.
And so they came and they found the house in a mess, and it was like, this is not like you. So I told them what happened, and they were really instrumental in getting everything back in order. And I missed a part out where I said I took the drink, it didn't help. But I remember my grandmother words that when you're in distress, go on your knees. So I went on my knees and I prayed and I said, Lord, hear my prayer and give me the strength so I can call his mom and say he's dead, and also I can get to the funeral home. And he answered my prayer. I think when you pray in earnest, he really hears. And so I was able to go to the funeral home, identify the body, call his mom, and then call home to my relatives and say what happened. So yeah, that's a sad moment. And for our time there for Father's Day, I celebrated Father's Day too.
Okay.
I mean, I don't do it anymore, but
Right.
yeah, that was the saddest day of my life. I still think of him from time to time.
Nice.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, our family members, you mentioned them earlier, you know, your sister, twin sister Carolyn,
My brother.
your brother, Uncle Ali, you know, these people were definitely instrumental in our lives. They stepped right in, and for me, I was young, I was like 2 years old, so I have no memory of my dad, but you know, with persons like Auntie Caro and Uncle Ali and Granny and Auntie Barbara, you know, with them there, it was like
Nothing
was missing.
Yeah.
You know, so they were definitely there for us, and I could see how they help you to overcome such a tragedy in your life. So.
And you know, they say time heals all wounds, and it's true. Because I look back and I think about it, but I no longer get sad.
Right.
You know, so time does heal wounds.
Right, good stuff. Now, I know that this is your motto, life after 50. Your life basically begins at the age of 50. Some people say the new 40, 50s, the new 40, that type of stuff. But basically, why are you so passionate about looking your best, feeling your best, keeping yourself looking young? Why are you so passionate about that?
Beauty comes from the inside. And it depends on how you're feeling. Outside, it radiates on the outside. Right now, like you said, the age of 50, I've reinvented myself. I've rediscovered who I am. Self-love. And when you have self-love, you look for yourself for satisfaction. So this is the result of what you see, wanting to look my best and always feeling cherry. Some people say I don't smile, but if they get to know me, they'll realize that I'm quite a laid-back and funny person.
You know, it's definitely a treat to have you on the show, Mommy. As I said, a true inspiration to me, to my daughters. You know, I always said when I do become a mother, I want to be just like you. And I even find myself, you know, saying the things that you would say to us when we were small. I stopped the noise in my hair with the wind blowing. Or I talk to you till cold holy, you know. So you're definitely an inspiration to me.
Well, I like to interject that I don't want to be portrayed as being infallible or perfect.
Right.
I'm far from it. I do make my mistakes, but like I said, you regroup and you try to do better next time. There is no manual. Life doesn't come with a manual, well, outside of the Bible. You learn by your mistakes and you try to build on that.
Good stuff. So as I said, I think now, I mean, it's a short version of your story, but
very short.
I'm pretty sure that you inspired somebody out there watching today. Well, it was definitely a treat having you on the show, on my official show, not with a hairbrush. Not with a hairbrush. So definitely, I never thought I would have seen this day you know, come, and I am definitely touched and happy that you were able to be here on the show with me. Any final words of encouragement to ladies out there on a whole?
Like I said, the new day brings the next opportunity. Today may be rough, but you can't give up. Keep your passion strong and strive for your goals.
Good stuff, my mommy. Hey, hey, hey. JTV Hot Trends, ladies and gentlemen. All you got to do is keep it locked. We'll be right back.